Bedtime Stories with Grandpa, Sleeping Beauty. Long ago, there lived a king and a queen. Every single day they sighed, "Oh, if only we had a child." But no child came. One morning, while the queen was taking a bath, a frog crawled out of the water and said, "Your wish will come true. Before a year is over, you will have a daughter." Exactly as the frog promised, a baby girl was born. She was so beautiful that the king's heart nearly burst with joy. He planned a splendid party. He invited everyone, family, friends, and all the wise women of the kingdom, so they would bless the child. There were 13 wise women, but the palace owned only 12 golden plates. One wizzy woman had to stay at home. The feast glittered with music and laughter. When it ended, the wise women stepped forward with their gifts. One gave the princess goodness, the next beauty, the third riches, and so on, with every wonderful thing anyone could wish for. Just after the 11th blessing, the 13th wise woman burst into the hall. She was angry that she had been left out. Without a greeting, she shouted, "When the princess is 15, she will prick her finger on a spindle and fall down dead." She spun around and left. Everyone stood frozen. Then the 12th wise woman, who still had her wish to give, spoke softly. "It shall not be death, but a deep sleep that lasts 100 years." The king wanted to protect his dear child. He ordered every spindle in the kingdom to be burned. Meanwhile, the princess grew up with all the gifts of the wise women. She was kind, clever, and so lovely that everyone who saw her loved her. On the day she turned 15, the king and queen were away, and the princess explored the castle alone. She wandered from room to room until she found an old tower. Up the narrow winding stairs she went and came to a small door. A rusty key was in the lock. She turned it, the door creaked open, and there sat an old woman spinning flax. "Good day, Granny," the princess said. "What are you doing?" "I'm spinning," answered the old woman, nodding. "What is that funny little thing that jumps up and down?" the princess asked. She took the spindle, wanting to try. The moment she touched it, the spell came true. She pricked her finger. At once she felt dizzy, lay down on a nearby bed, and fell fast asleep. Sleep spread through the whole castle. The king and queen, who had just come home, nodded off in the hall, and with them the entire court. The horses slept in their stalls, the dogs in the yard, the doves on the roof, even the flies on the wall. The fire stopped flickering, the roast stopped sizzling, and the cook, who was about to pull the kitchen boy's hair, let go and slept. The wind rested, and not a leaf moved on the trees. Around the castle grew a hedge of thorns. It climbed higher every year until nothing at all could be seen of the castle, not even the flag on the roof. Yet people spoke of the Sleeping Beauty, and from time to time princes came, hoping to force their way through the hedge. But the thorns clung together like hands. The young men were caught, could not free themselves, and died miserably. After many, many years, another prince arrived. An old man told him the tale. Behind the hedge stood a castle where a princess called Sleeping Beauty had slept for 100 years, along with the king, the queen, and the whole court. The prince's own grandfather had warned that many princes had tried to reach her and had perished in the thorns. "I am not afraid," said the young prince. "I must see this Sleeping Beauty." The old man begged him to turn back, but the prince would not listen. Now the 100 years had just ended, and the day had come for the princess to wake. As the prince drew near, the thorns turned into great blooming flowers. They opened of themselves, letting him pass unharmed, then closed behind him as a hedge again. In the courtyard, he saw the horses and the spotted hunting dogs sleeping. On the roof, the doves sat with their heads tucked under their wings. Inside, flies slept on the walls. The cook still held up his hand. The maid sat before a black chicken, waiting to be plucked. The prince walked on. In the great hall, the whole court lay asleep, and on the throne, the king and queen. Everything was so still, he could hear his own breath. At last he reached the tower, opened the little door, and found the princess. She was so beautiful, he could not look away. He bent down and gently kissed her. At that touch, Sleeping Beauty opened her eyes and smiled. Together, they went downstairs. The king and queen woke, and the whole court woke with them, staring in amazement. The horses stood and shook their manes. The hunting dogs leapt and wagged their tails. The doves lifted their heads and flew into the fields. The flies crawled on. The kitchen fire blazed up and cooked the meal. The roast began to sizzle again. The cook boxed the boy's ears so he yelled. Then the prince and Sleeping Beauty were married with great splendor, and they lived happily ever after.